Hey everyone, welcome back to Somatic Wisdom and the Ethereal Soul. Today we're going to be talking about dystonia. I don't know if you're familiar with dystonia. Let's talk about this particular case study. Okay, this is dystonia of the neck. Dystonia, my understanding, is genetic in most cases, but there are some emotional components that Michael J. Lincoln outlines in his book Messages from the Body. So I'm just going to read through this particular section, and this is for dystonia of the neck. Dystonia, my understanding is that it can affect any part of the body, and there are cases of full body dystonia. That's very advanced, I believe, a very advanced condition at that point. So for this, again, we're just looking at the neck. Fear of consequences of putting it out there, expectation of harmful events, catastrophic predictions about consequences to self and others, betrayal of family with success. Restoring personal success activated, oh no you don't, submessage. Developed to prevent engaging with self-committed destiny manifestation. Dynamite shed effect, i.e., finding yourself in a pitch black space and lighting a match to see where you are. Became afraid in childhood to put it out there. Possessive denial, dominated family, keep them at the old homestead. Never allowed to succeed away from home. Oh, so you think you got away, do you? Severe programming by family to fail in all attempts at effective function. So this is just some of what Michael J. Lincoln has written in his book, Messages from the Body. This version was updated in 2006, and I actually wrote this out a couple of weeks ago in January. And so there may be more to this section in his book, but I was looking at several case studies very quickly while I had some free time. And so this is what I have for this. Now, this particular person that was presenting with dystonia of the neck, I did not diagnose this. This was diagnosed previously, and we were talking specifically about this particular condition, which I'm not very familiar with. I have only heard of two other people close to me through, like, one person removed with dystonia, and I've never treated anybody or worked with anybody who had dystonia. But the more we look at the psychology of the body, and the more that we look at the psychology of development in children, the more we can recognize the connection and how certain beliefs are formed. This particular case study actually reminds me, only because of the location of the body, they're talking about the neck in this particular case. And it reminds me of a case study that you can find actually on YouTube. It's with Peter Levine. And while this is something that is probably chronic, I mean, if this is the childhood that this person had, and this was their constant experience and the constant message that they received, that to me is chronic conditioning. And the particular case study I'm thinking of was where Peter Levine was working with a member of the military forces and who was injured. His injury was mostly post-traumatic stress, I believe. It's been a while since I viewed this, so I may get some of the facts wrong. I would look it up. Peter Levine has numerous YouTube videos of him working with clients, and clearly he has permission to do that, to work with them, to film them, and to have them on YouTube. He's a well-known author, and his work is called Somatic Experiencing, that is registered and trademarked work. And he's working with the reptilian brain, the primal responses of the autonomic nervous system: fight, flight, freeze, faint. There are a couple of others in there, but we'll just stick with those four for right now. And you know, the very interesting thing about that is that he's working with this client, and now this client has now developed tics in their neck, right? And as I viewed it, and he may even speak to this, I remember thinking, and he may have said, I think it was mostly me analyzing the footage. It's like the client is trying to turn away. Now, what had happened is their vehicle was, I believe, I won't go into detail. Let me just not go into detail. But it seemed to me as I was watching, it's like he's trying to turn away from something. So this tic is happening, this jerk of the neck. He doesn't want to see what's happening or what's about to happen. So his neck is constantly turning and rotating in one direction. And there's quite an extensive amount of symptomology that is happening for this human being now at this point. Regardless of when the event took place, he now is having very extreme symptoms in response to this event, and symptoms that I wouldn't even directly associate them, but when I drop down into my body, into the viscera, it makes perfect sense to me. It makes absolutely perfect sense to me why he is responding in that way. And that was acute, right? He had an acute event, and then all of this started to happen, right? So then that becomes the kind of the chronic buildup, but there was an acute event. No chronic messaging like with dystonia. What dystonia is being described as how one arrives at this kind of a medical condition. If we're looking at the psychology of it and not the genetics, if we're looking at the psychology and the message is, you're never getting out of here. You're never leaving. You're not allowed to rise above where the rest of us are. You're not to be an achiever. You're not to be an overachiever. You will not be successful. You will stay right here at home. What is that person? If the neck is frozen and won't move, what are they trying to look toward? Are they looking out? Are they looking back and seeing, wow, that doesn't feel good? Are they trying to look forward, but they're being told, don't look ahead, don't look forward, you're not going anywhere. Oh, I can't look over there. I have to look over here. I have to stay in my place. I'm not allowed to look at the great world, at the big world, at the great big world. I'm not allowed to look at the thing that I want to achieve. I'm not allowed to glance in that direction. I'm to stay right here. Now again, Michael J. Lincoln's book, You know, he may have talked about numerous areas of the body. I am going to talk about a medical condition. You know, I could read through his whole book, but that might be a you know, a violation of some kind to be reading through his whole book. You know, but I think it's important to recognize that I'm being placed in a position of being able to talk to folks and look at case studies and to review them through a different lens. And I don't identify these folks to protect their privacy. And even if they've given me permission, I don't disclose that. They're welcome to disclose it themselves in comments if they'd like, but it would be a violation of HIPAA for me to do that. And so I prefer to respect people's privacy. And so that's the only reason I talk about myself, because I have my own permission. Fuck, you know, I don't need my permission. I signed a waiver when I first started doing body work and massage and became a holistic health practitioner. Like, we were always disclosing our own stuff in class, right? I have this, I have that, you know, I've filled out numerous health intake forms, and hopefully that information is staying private in a health intake form. But, you know, I can talk about my own stuff, you know, and certainly I'm able to make the connection between what's valid and what's accurate and what's not. And I usually don't share in here the stuff that's not relevant to my experience. Now, if you've got low blood pressure or you've got dystonia, I think one of my former videos was about low blood pressure. If you've got dystonia and you want me to look up a different area of the body, let me know in the comments, and I will go back to Michael J. Lincoln's book and I will look at it and see what else he has to say about dystonia, if he's talking about other parts of the body, if he has just a general overview, and then I can put that information up here for you. I would be happy to do that. But you know, I think it's just very important to be able to step back and have a wider view, right? To look at medical conditions through different lenses, because you know, diseases such as inflammatory conditions, Western medicine doesn't have any answers when it comes to inflammation. I don't know, it's an inflammatory condition, you know, and then they just give you a bunch of anti-inflammatories. Well, guess what? You can't live on anti-inflammatories. They're not to be taken indefinitely, right? You know, that's when you go to your Ayurvedic practitioner and you start learning about turmeric supplements or turmeric and black pepper, and how can I put this in my food, and how can I eat more healthfully, and how can I eliminate sugar and reduce the inflammatory foods that make up my day, you know. That's kind of what Western medicine is it's kind of after the fact. There is no preventative information, and although this is after the fact, what this does is it remembers that the body and the mind are connected. They are connected. It's one, you know, my brain is not out here. My brain sits in my skull, and my spinal column is attached to the base of my brain, right? The brain stem, like that goes down my back. It's called the spine. Oh yeah. I do not understand still. This is going to be just something I'm always talking about. You know, the body and the brain are one entity, and the body and the mind are one entity, and the psychosomatic experience is one. It is one experience. What happens in the brain happens in the body. What happens in the body, that information is transmitted to the brain. These are basic things we learned in health, right? Interoception, exteroception, all of those things, proprioception, it's all information. It's a highway. Our nervous system is a highway of communication, and that is always happening. It's always present. It never stops until we are no longer breathing in oxygen and our heart is no longer beating. And even then, some people say energetically. But I'm not a death doula. So I just wanted to talk about dystonia because I do want to put the information out there that even for something like this that can mainly be defined as a genetic condition, there may also be a psychological component. In fact, it may be that your dystonia is only psychologically influenced and that there is no genetic basis for it. That's not true for everybody, but it's worth looking at because there's nothing more freeing than having the power to be able to say, oh, you know, we never did a genetic test, but everything that just I have found about dystonia and the body-mind connection, that's pretty much my childhood, right? There's something very empowering about that. And, you know, I use other tools, and I'm going to talk about that in another video because I did have an event happen on Tuesday. What's today? The 1st? It's Thursday, 30th. That was a little unsettling. And I think that, you know, it wasn't my, I wouldn't say trauma, but it wasn't my disruption that I was connecting to. It wasn't something that's personally happened to me that was causing me distress. But I did have to break out some art in order to work through it. So that was very healing and a very unexpected situation, but I was able to really benefit from that, and I'm really glad that I had that as a tool. So I'm going to stop here today. We were talking about dystonia on the Somatic Wisdom channel, and really glad that you tuned in. I hope that you leave some comments for us. If there's a medical condition you'd like us to check out, please put that in the comments, or you can email us directly at etherealsoul2003@gmail.com, and you can do that confidentially, and we will get that material researched for you and get some video material up for you. So take it easy, kittens. I hope that you are well and taking good care of yourselves, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.